Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Friday. It's Coach Amy. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Catherine, and I am a holistic health coach. I'm also a PhD student in integrative and functional nutrition, which after I complete few more semesters, I'll start adding a minor in mind-body medicine. And that's a little bit about who I am. Again, holistic health coach. That just means I focus a lot on nutrition to start with, but with our brains being the central command center, there's often so much more going on in our lives, our hormones and our emotions and our thought. That's our cognitive thinking. So I am trained in motivational interviewing, which is a technique that is used to elicit motivation to help the clients that I serve find the motivation within to start making the steps they need to make lasting health changes. And again, I'm studying integrative and functional nutrition. So I'm doing a series on right now lasting weight loss. And initially yesterday when I went live, I thought that today I would be covering the low carb, low fat, high protein, low calorie, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting in one post. But once I started looking at this review article, I was like, no way can I cover all of that in just one post and actually have it be meaningful to you guys. So today, happy Friday. I'm just going to do an introduction to what I'll be doing next week. So next week, yesterday I touched on the low carb versus low fat diet. We'll be looking at that a little bit more next week. Also looking at high protein diets, low calorie, the Mediterranean diet, and intermittent fasting. At least intermittent fasting is what's commonly known or accepted for a few different strategies of basically restricting energy in windows, and we'll get into that more next week. So the article that I'll be using, I'll link it in the comments today and next week. It was published in 2018, and it basically looked at a lot of different research surrounding all of these diets and kind of assessed them all. It was done by the National Kapodistrian University of Athens Medical School, and I'm not sure I said that correctly, but that's in Athens, Greece. So some important things that I want you to keep in mind that are highlighted in this article and will be highlighted throughout next week is that the optimal dietary approach for lasting weight loss needs to be these things. For it to be lasting and effective, it's got to be safe, right? It needs to be safe for your health. It needs to be effective. You want to lose the weight, right? It needs to be healthy and nutritionally adequate. So making sure you're, supplying your body with the vitamins, minerals, and macronutrients that it needs to perform optimally. It needs to be culturally acceptable. So that's going to be completely individual to the person, to you, to me. And it needs to be affordable, economically. We need to be able to buy our food. We need to be able to afford to feed ourselves. That's super important. So those are the main priorities. So when you are meeting these needs, you're going to be able to have a long-term you're going to be able to stick to your new habits that you continue to build. You're going to comply with that. You'll be able to create lasting habits surrounding your food, right? So food is the focus of this series. There's a lot more factors that play into lasting weight loss, which I covered a couple days ago, and I will be circling back on. But after all, it's not so much about losing weight as it is about being healthy, feeling good, living your life, and a long life to enjoy your family, your friends, and to contribute to your community and family and peers. So yesterday, I brought up that even a tiny 5 to 10% of weight loss for those people who are of an unhealthy weight. If you are considered overweight or at an unhealthy weight or have had some sort of negative report, only 5 to 10% can make a huge difference in your long-term health. So to put that into perspective, if you weigh 200 pounds, it's only 10 to 20 pounds. That's 5 to 10%. And setting realistic goals, like that 5 to 10% is really a realistic goal for you to set within the first 6 months of your journey. That's just something to keep in mind, because a lot of people come and, they really realistic goals is an important part to success, right? Smart goal format. You want to be specific. It needs to be measurable. That 5 to 10%, that's 10 to 20 pounds if you're 200 pounds. It needs to be attainable, right? You need to be able to achieve it. And so 10 to 20 pounds in 6 months for a 200-pound person is more than achievable. Lots of room to fluctuate and still get to your goal weight. And build up the habits, the lasting habits. So another thing, just again, the introduction. Next week, when I start diving into these different strategies, I want you to keep in mind that all of these approaches, low fat, low carb, high protein, very low calorie, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, there is research to support all of them, and finding the approach that fits you best needs to fall into the category of it needs to work for you. It needs to provide you with the nutrition that you need. It needs to fit your cultural or religious practices, and it needs to be affordable. So these are all things that you keep in mind. Also, long-term success, and research supports this, is almost never just one approach, but it involves multiple strategies over time as your body adapts and becomes more metabolically flexible, and as you incorporate other holistic practices, whether that's a way for you to be mindful, which could be lots of different ways. That's something that we'll cover. I'm going to cover probably in 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, there's the mindfulness piece. There's exercise. There's so much more. But again, as your body adjusts and becomes more flexible, success usually happens by alternating between strategies. And what else do I want to say? Also, it's important to keep in mind that the calories in and calories out, right? That tracking how much I eat and how much I burn. So it's generally accepted, and even so in nutritional professionals and in the literature, the published research, it is a generally accepted rule. But however, going back, I want to quote Dr. Berkeley, which I talked about, and I went over an interview with her 2 days ago. She's the director of the Weight Management Partners in Beechwood, Ohio. So this is her quote. She says, "If I have learned anything in 30 years of treating unhealthy weight patients, it is this: the commonly accepted prescription for weight reduction of the eat less, move more is simply ineffective. It doesn't work in a real life." So you think in a vacuum, you have feathers in a vacuum, a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks. In a vacuum, they fall at the same rate, but in real life, the bricks fall a lot faster than the feathers. And that's the case with the eat less, move more. In real life, it's simply ineffective. If humans were merely machines that added and subtracted calories, our weight would reliably respond to this theory, and it just doesn't. And any of you who have struggled with yo-yo dieting, counting calories, exercising, trying to make that balance work, but still struggled, you understand that it's not necessarily cookie cutter for you. It's not a strategy that works in real life. She goes on to say, we are complex organisms capable of changing how we store and how we burn fuel. And so that's our bodies. We're resilient. It adapts to the changes, and we are built to survive. And so a lot of times I will get into that research too, of all the things like why at a certain point. Next week we'll talk about that. Our bodies adapt, and that's why these multiple strategies, multiple approaches that change, you kind of shock your body, and it depends on where you're starting and where you are, that these strategies can be incorporated. So the takeaway today for next week is keeping in mind, when I cover all these approaches, what really works is a prudent approach, which includes a combination of these different approaches: low fat, low carb, high protein, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, or in some cases, doctor supervised, like extremely restricted caloric intake. So guys, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited about these daily lives, Monday through Friday, that I put on the calendar to talk about research in a meaningful way. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments, send me a message, or just schedule 45-50 minutes with me. It's completely free to have a consultation. We'll just look at where you are, where you want to be, what your goals are, and how we could work together if it's a good fit. All right, guys, thank you. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. All right, bye-bye.